สวัสดีค่ะ Hi everybody, welcome back to Bitazza Invites, our bi-weekly live AMA with myself, dYdX, the Chief Communications Officer of Bitazza. I have been bringing you guys very special guests in the past full year, I would say, and today is no different. But first of all, we apologize for running a little bit behind schedule. But don't worry, we're here and we have a lot to talk about with the very exciting guest for today. So without further ado, I would like to invite our guest for today, Corey Miller, who is in charge of growth for dYdX.
Hey everybody. Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, and definitely my other guest who's always been by my side, talking to all the exciting projects and different guests that we've had, the CEO and co-founder of Bitazza, Kavin Phongpandecha, or Art.
Hi everyone, nice to be here.
Hi, so before we move forward, I'm just going to leave a message in Thai just so that our local audience know that we will be translating everything and making sure that everything is getting across to everybody. สวัสดีค่ะเพื่อนๆทุกคนนะคะวันนี้ดีวิมลพันธ์วิบูลย์มาก็กลับมาอีกครั้งหนึ่งนะคะกับรายการ Bitazza Invites นะคะเป็น Live AMA ของเราที่จัดกันอยู่ทุกๆ 2-4 สัปดาห์นะคะก็ที่ผ่านมาเรามีโปรเจกต์น่าสนใจมาเยอะมากเลยส่วนวันนี้ก็ไม่ต่างกันนะคะเป็นโปรเจกต์ DEX ที่ชื่อ dYdX นะคะแล้วก็มีแขกรับเชิญพิเศษมากๆเลยคือคุณ Corey Miller ซึ่งin charge ดูแลเรื่อง growth นะคะของ dYdX แต่ว่าเดี๋ยวยังไงดิแล้วก็คุณอาร์ตกวินพงษ์พันเดชานะคะ CEO และผู้ร่วมก่อตั้งของเราเดี๋ยวจะมาสรุปประเด็นแล้วก็เล่าให้ทุกคนฟังเป็นภาษาไทยแบบสบายหูไม่ต้องเครียดเหมือนเดิมนะคะก็พรุ่งนี้เราจะมาเจอกันอีกทีนึงภาคภาษาไทยส่วนวันนี้ก็ภาคภาษาอังกฤษใครมีคำถามก็ส่งมาที่คอมเมนต์ได้เลยนะคะทีมงานเราดูอยู่โอเคค่ะขออนุญาตกลับไปเป็นภาษาอังกฤษนะคะ Okay, so I've given a shout out to our Thai audience, but don't worry because we also have a lot of English speaking followers both here in Thailand and the rest of the world. So we have with us here today our very special guest from dYdX, which is a decentralized exchange platform that is non-custodial, using the audiobook that's different from others. I think we'll deep dive into that a little bit more. So why don't I get you, Corey, to just give a brief introduction for those of you who may not be already familiar with dYdX, although I understand that you guys have a huge community and following, and actually this was one of the most anticipated and one of the most times that our audience have been super excited when we hinted that we would list you guys. So here you are.
Great. Yeah. Thanks again for having me on. So, as a brief introduction, I'm Corey. I'm on the growth team here at dYdX. dYdX is the largest decentralized exchange in all of crypto. So we're doing anywhere, I would say, between $3 billion and $5 billion of daily volume on average. And to take a step back, dYdX is a decentralized perpetuals exchange. And so for those who don't know, perpetuals are a type of feature that are very popular in crypto. And so with that, we are able to offer a pretty interesting user experience to our users. And so basically you deposit stablecoin, that being USDC, into our product, and you're able to trade and get exposure to all the top markets in all of crypto. So I think we have 28 markets right now, and we launch more, every week or so. And even though we are a decentralized exchange running on Ethereum, you are able to trade assets that are not on Ethereum, given that you're trading perpetuals, which are a type of synthetic. Another interesting part of our exchange is that we are running on a layer 2. So we collaborate with Starkware on that. And so basically users are able to trade on a decentralized exchange like dYdX, but not have to pay any gas fees, which is really huge. So before we launched the layer 2, users might have to pay, upwards of $100 per trade, which of course is not a very good user experience. But now, you come to dYdX, you onboard, and you don't have to worry about gas fees at all. Other kind of unique aspects of the exchange are you could trade up to 25x leverage. And then we also have cross-margining on our order books, which is a really important feature, especially for pro traders and prosumers in the market. And another interesting aspect, I would say, is we run on the concept of a central limit order book. And so what that means is you have access to a large variety of different advanced trade types. So you can set limit orders, you can set stop limit orders, take profit orders, etc. And this is not really possible, at least at the moment, when you're trading on other decentralized exchanges that perhaps use something like an automated market maker order book model. So those are some pretty large differences between dYdX and some other decentralized exchanges, but happy to go in depth or answer anything in particular.
Yeah, thanks, Corey. I think that's a very good introduction to dYdX. I've been a big fan of you since, I think you guys have been around for a long time. And it's interesting to see how you're building on L2 on Ethereum, using Starkware. And that basically increased the user experience massively. So my question would be, with this Ethereum scaling debates going on, you have a lot of competitors coming out, not Ethereum based, but sometimes EVM, sometimes they're not. But what is it about Ethereum that you decided that is worth building on top of, and why is it that you're stuck with an L2 instead of going to another L1? Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, so I'd say when we started going down this rabbit hole and doing research, this was in 2020. At that time, there wasn't too much optionality in terms of other layer 2s that were live, and also other layer 1s that were live had the same amount of users that Ethereum did. And that we were confident that we could kind of scale on. So when we collaborated with Starkware, they were one of the first layer 2s in the market, true layer 2s, I should say, not simply just a side chain. But nonetheless, we've been very pleased with how the system has been able to scale over time. But as we look forward, one of our main priorities is to fully decentralize the product. And so right now, I would say dYdX is still kind of in this hybrid state where we have decentralized settlement, we have decentralized custody, but we still do run a central limit order book, and we have a centralized matching engine. But our main priority over the course of the next 12 to 18 months, I would say, is to completely decentralize everything, every part of the order book, every part of the matching engine. So that could be on Starknet, which is kind of like the next evolution of the layer 2 that we're on right now, or that could potentially be on another chain or another L2, or we're still kind of doing research into that.
Right. So in terms of decentralizing the protocol, I believe you guys have the dYdX token, which is like the protocol that people can do governance on. People can vote on things, add assets and all that. But there's also the equity component of it, where you actually have a company that earns trading fees. So how do you plan to decentralize this, or is it going to continue to be like a hybrid between the equity side and also the protocol side, and how does that work?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So right now they're obviously two separate entities. We have dYdX Trading, which is the entity that runs the exchange. All revenues flow to dYdX Trading. We have the dYdX token, which operates the governance of the actual protocol and many of the smart contracts relating to the dYdX token and some of the smart contracts relating to the exchange. So at the moment, governance has control over kind of a lot of different aspects of the exchange and of the protocol itself. But yeah, as you mentioned, over time, we want to fully decentralize that to hand over all control of the protocol to dYdX holders.
Oh, interesting. So I think that's the beauty of crypto, where like you start off being centralized, but then over time you decentralize and then you give control over. But at the beginning, it's very crucial to be like centralized so that you can build fast and like iterate on a product without all the chaos that comes with the decentralization, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say that's part of it. The other part of it is there are parts, again, of the tech stack where it's just like not really feasible to make it fully decentralized yet. It's more of a scaling issue. So once we figure out some of those issues, we definitely very much look forward to giving as much control over the protocol to the community as possible.
Right. So I think the interesting thing is like you guys decided to focus on the derivatives market, dYdX. Just from the name itself, screams derivatives to me. So my question is like, why do you think that you want to focus on the derivative market versus other markets like spot market or other AMM types of smart contracts?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I would say, so I mean, perpetuals are the most traded product in all of crypto. So, first they were popularized by BitMEX, and then, Binance and other centralized exchanges launched them as well. And, similarly to how spot trading, I would say, got really popular on Uniswap. So kind of like people went from centralized exchanges then to Uniswap for a variety of markets. We kind of think the same thing will happen for perpetuals as well. So today, a lot of people are still trading perpetuals on centralized exchanges, but we think with the right user experience and the right incentive structure, a lot of those people will start trading on decentralized exchanges instead of centralized exchanges. And so, from our perspective, if we can build a product that is either equivalent or even better than what you might get on a centralized exchange, there's really no reason for users to stay on them anymore. So that's kind of where we kind of see the market going. We've made a lot of progress to date. As I mentioned, we are the largest decentralized exchange in crypto. And, it's been exciting. Even on some days, we've become larger than a lot of the major centralized exchanges as well in terms of daily volumes.
Right. I remember some stats saying that at some point you guys were doing more volume than Coinbase, right?
Yeah. So that was a fun stat that we had. That was only for about a day or two, but depending on a variety of factors, it both shows that we have the demand to kind of become bigger than Coinbase on some days, and then also we have the throughput and capacity and scale, which is exciting as well, that a decentralized exchange can theoretically do more volume than Coinbase on any given day.
Right. Would you say that like the majority of your customers are more like sophisticated crypto natives rather than like retail based? Because to be able to do all of that, to not only trade on a DEX but also trading perpetuals requires some sort of sophistication. So is that the market that you're trying to tackle, or are there plans to make that more available or more easy to use for retail?
Yeah, great question. So I would say it's a combination of both. I would say certainly we do have many users who are more pro traders, pro consumers, who have traded perpetuals before. I would say kind of the kind of like cycle of a user to get to dYdX is, they start on a centralized exchange, be it Coinbase or Binance, or, choose your popular centralized exchange. They get familiar with the products there, and then they start to kind of experiment with DeFi. And so, they download MetaMask, they send some funds over there, they start interacting with other DeFi protocols, and, eventually they find their way to dYdX. So right now, I would say users, they start on centralized exchanges, and then they kind of get interested in DeFi. So that is part of it, but we also have very large institutional traders and very large market makers on the exchange as well. So basically, all of the major market makers that you might find on a centralized exchange are also trading on dYdX, and that's partly because A, we have a really good product, but B, going back to kind of our model, we are on this order book model, which again is very similar to what you would find on a centralized exchange. And so what we found is the sophisticated traders of the world, they're very comfortable with that order book model. And so, what happens is they look at dYdX and they realize, okay, this is actually very similar to what I'm used to on decentralized exchanges that could actually onboard a lot easier than I can on another decentralized exchange where I'm not super familiar with the order book types, I'm not super familiar with the APIs. So ultimately, we want to make the product experience very seamless, where people can move between a centralized exchange and a decentralized exchange like dYdX in an easy manner. So we've put a lot of thought and effort into that. And then on the retail side of things, we try our best to make the product as approachable as possible. So we have extensive kind of help docs and resources on our help page to kind of teach users how to use perpetuals and teach users about the product. We also have a live chat functionality where users could kind of chat and ask questions. And then also from a product perspective, we do have a web app. We are compatible on mobile, but we are also working on a mobile app. And so that should hopefully be released within the next few months. And so with that, I think a lot of retail only users will be comfortable onboarding via the mobile app at some point soon.
Oh wow! I didn't know that the mobile app is up and coming. I think one of the reasons that I feel like the crypto dApps don't really have good mobile adoption. I think so far. I think that's a great thing to hear from you guys, that you guys are actually building this out, and that in the back end is linked to the blockchain. So that's where the real adoption happens. Because I think for us as well, you see a lot of people trading on mobile. So I'm excited to hear that. In terms of liquidity mining, I think you guys have a trading competition and then airdrops for very select group of users. I think probably the first time I hear that someone providing liquidity on the you're only giving that to liquidity providers, market makers on the platform. And is that why you guys have a lot of liquidity on the platform?
Yeah, so we have a few different liquidity mining programs at the moment for dYdX tokens. So the main one actually is what we call trading rewards. And so it's kind of a function of open interest and fees paid to the platform. But in short, the more you trade on dYdX, the more dYdX tokens you'll earn. And so even if you're not a market maker, you'll earn a lot of tokens just from trading on the platform. And so this is actually kind of geared towards takers and people who are putting market orders and kind of more focused on kind of like retail traders actually. And so yeah, this is another kind of perk to, I'd say, trading on dYdX, where you could actually get paid in the form of dYdX tokens for just trading, whatever you might have traded on a centralized exchange, but instead you're doing that on dYdX. And so, if you're on Binance or FTX or Coinbase, let's say, like they're not paying you in any form, right, to trade. In fact, you're paying them fees. The same thing is true on dYdX, but you will kind of at the end of every epoch, which is roughly a month, you'll earn rebates in dYdX tokens, which is pretty cool. We also have liquidity mining programs for market makers as well. But yeah, basically we pay market makers in dYdX as well based off of how well they are performing in the markets.
Mm-hmm. Right. Nice. I think one of the things that I have questions about that I think is key to 2022, and I would see increasingly of, is about regulation. Because I believe you guys don't support trading for certain citizens from certain countries like the US. And so how do you see that evolve over time, especially when you become more decentralized? Will that allow you to do more onboarding of people from various jurisdictions, or how is that coming along?
Yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, I mean, at the moment we aim to be regulatory compliant in every jurisdiction that we operate in. So I would say the main thing that we kind of geo-block users right now from is the US and some certain other countries as well that might be OFAC sanctioned or anything like that. So I mean, I would say it kind of remains to be seen how everything will unfold in the coming years. But yeah, I mean, at the moment, again, we have to be regulatory compliant everywhere.
Nice. Yeah, I think it's also interesting. Like even I think in Thailand, there's not really anything on decentralized exchanges, let alone derivatives and all that. But I think it's coming, so it's good to know that there's some room for like decentralization and regulatory crackdown will be much harder to do when the system is fully decentralized. Yeah, I think that there's a certain questions from the audience. Maybe Didi, you want to read it out, or?
Of course. There is one of our customers called Luk Song Si Tong who sent a message saying that normally I am a user of dYdX. It works really, really great. However, would it be possible for me to request a copy trade feature? Yeah, that would be the question from him.
Got it. Yeah, that's a great idea, and it's something that we've actually had people ask for in the past as well. I would say it's taking a step back. Social trading features and social features more broadly is something that we're definitely going to be focusing on as well next year. So yeah, copy trading could be in the cards, but at the very least, we'll have more ways for people to share their positions via social. So yeah, we're pretty excited about that, giving people the ability to kind of brag about their positions or kind of talk about them, and then we'll also have different ways for people to view leaderboards on the exchange. So actually leaderboards are live right now, but we will be continuing to build those out even more so people could theoretically learn more about the people behind the actual P&Ls that they're seeing on the leaderboards.
Because I'm going to assume that because we've been saying that dYdX has quite a strong community, so that must be one of the reasons, especially with your allocation of the dYdX tokens of 500 million dedicated to be allocated to the communities versus the overall overall supply of 1 billion tokens. So like half of that is meant to go to the community, which is really exciting. So that actually leads me to the next question from one of our audiences. Kun Ui said, addressing the point I just made now, that circulating supply is considered quite low. What is your strategy on that?
Yeah, so I mean, I would say, the strategy here is, there kind of is a set amount of dYdX tokens that are kind of being distributed every month, basically. And so, the goal here is essentially to get dYdX in the hands of actual users of the protocol. And so we want to give everybody a chance to, onboard to the protocol, start using it. And so with that, it's kind of a slow drip over time. So people have, enough opportunity to get familiar with the exchange and, become an active user.
Would you also be increasing the utilities of the token as well?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the utilities of the token, ultimately, a lot of it is up to the community itself. And so as we mentioned, like many of the aspects relating to the token are controlled exclusively by the token holders. And so with that, we definitely are excited to continue to work with the community on, enabling anything that they vote for. and working with them on ideating on that process. But yeah, ultimately it's a collaborative effort to kind of ensure that the dYdX token has more utility. But yeah, at the moment it's mostly used for governance. It does give you access to reduced trading fees on the platform as well. So the more dYdX you hold, you know, the smaller your trading fees will be. But yeah, you know, again, ultimately, you know, excited to work with the community on working on any other initiatives that might come up.
Right. In terms of like voting, like how flexible are you guys? Let's say, for example, if someone wants to vote in other types of products, like, and then it wins majority, does that mean that you're obligated to implement all the demands? For example, if people vote in for different types of derivatives, I know you guys are just doing like perpetual swaps right now, but let's say, you know, in the future, if people want to trade options or other types of derivative, would that be an option? Would that be implemented based on popular demand?
Yeah, so governance does have control over the types of products that are added to the smart contracts. So there is a caveat there specifically on that question though. So yes, governance can add something to the smart contracts, but there is an additional step for the dYdX team to add it to the actual exchange. So yeah, I mean, at the moment, we can't and have no interest in like listing securities on the platform. So, you know, theoretically, right, if the governance added a security to the smart contracts, we would not be able to add that to the exchange. Should they technically be on the smart contracts, but people wouldn't really be able to trade them. But yeah, in terms of other types of derivatives, that is theoretically something that they could have control over in the future, but at the moment, it's not something that you can add too easily to the tech stack that we have. So right now, we kind of only have the ability to add perpetuals. We definitely want to expand into other types of derivatives over time. We kind of view dYdX in the future as kind of this like all-purpose exchange where you can trade all different types of forms of derivatives. But yeah, at the moment, the tech stack is kind of set up in such a way that we can only add perpetuals.
Right. I mean, in terms of like the performance, especially when you're a decentralized exchange, and then for trading perps, a lot of the funds are trading on centralized exchanges doing high frequency trading. Would that also be possible to do on dYdX in terms of performance?
Yeah. So that is certainly very possible and kind of occurs. We have a lot of like the top market makers and institutional traders in all of crypto on the exchange. And so, yeah, given that we operate a central limited order book model, you know, people could connect to dYdX via an API. And so with that, you could execute a lot of the high frequency trading strategies that, you know, you see around crypto.
Cool.
Interesting. So yeah, I think that now because we are discussing that you guys are on layer 2 and on Ethereum, would it be a possible progression for you guys to consider any other blockchains?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and as I mentioned earlier, you know, we are very focused on fully decentralizing the product, kind of as the next version, and so with that, we actually are exploring other chains at the moment. You know, we haven't made any commitments one way or the other what we might be building on next, but yeah, we're kind of in this research phase where we're looking at other options just to get a better idea of what's been built. So, you know, as everybody knows, there's a lot of different chains out there. They all have a lot of different trade-offs regarding, you know, decentralization and scaling. And so, yeah, it's definitely something that's very top of mind for us, and is potentially possible that we migrate to somewhere else in the future.
Yeah, because this whole year also we've been getting different guests from different blockchains and different protocols on certain networks. So it would really be interesting to see where we're headed to, like all of us really in the coming year. Let me check if there are any other questions from the floor. Actually, in the meantime, something that came up to my attention actually is that you guys are still running with a pretty small team of, I'm gonna say 19 person. The way Forbes is referring to you guys as 19 person startup. So sounds like a lot of scalability, I guess.
Yeah, it's a good point. So yeah, I mean, we are still quite small. Yeah, as you mentioned, we're about 20 people. And so yeah, we definitely are looking to expand the team quite a bit. So if anyone's watching here and is interested in working at dYdX, definitely check out our careers page. But yeah, we have been able to scale the tech stack and grow quite large with the small team. But yeah, we certainly are very excited to continue to expand it over time.
And also congratulations on Antonio Juliano, your founder, who was listed Forbes 30 under 30 for North America recently. So that's really exciting for such a mainstream press to be covering a seemingly a startup like yourselves. And I think at the end of the day, when something like this is covering our industry, it's bringing a lot of exposure and getting others to talk about it as well. So that I found that to be quite exciting. That's really, really cool.
Yeah. Thank you. It's always great to be recognized by some of the leading media publications.
Nice. Yeah, I also wanted to bring it back a little bit because Didi brought up an interesting point about cross-chain, interoperability. And I think one of the reasons that DeFi is so successful is because of composability, where everything's basically on the same chain and you can use pieces on top of each other. But you guys are building on a very different infrastructure, isolated from everyone else in DeFi right now. Are there plans to create bridges, or are there plans to bring in some kind of like composability elements into what you're building?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So in terms of bridges, we definitely are interested in building bridges for people to be able to deposit and withdraw from into dYdX from other chains. So for instance, let's say you're on like Polygon and you want to deposit to dYdX, it would be really great if you could do it via Polygon and not have to go back to Ethereum layer 1 and then pay more gas fees to deposit to dYdX. So that is certainly on the roadmap, and potentially adding other layer 2s as well, and potentially even other like EVM compatible layer 1s. So that is in terms of like more deeper composability. I guess, yeah, one of the trade-offs that we have with our current setup is we don't really offer composability. So, we kind of chose to go after scaling instead of composability. And so with that, it's not really in the cards, at least at the moment, to be able to like fully have composability with other protocols. And that was very much a conscious decision that we made. So yeah, we kind of view it as like perpetuals don't really need composability. At least it's not obvious why they need it. Because yeah, kind of by nature and inherently, perpetuals run kind of in their own silo. And so we haven't really seen any good use cases yet, or really compelling use cases yet to offer let's say composability or tokenized positions. I'm sure there are really interesting ways in which people could build on top of it. But we wanted to make an exchange, at least initially, where we could scale first, and then maybe over time have it be more composable as kind of the feature sets become more built out and obvious. but we wanted to optimize for the best user experience for people actually trading perpetuals first. And then, if people want to venture out and do really interesting forms of composability with perpetuals positions in the future, we can kind of revisit that at a later time.
Nice. Yeah, because I think it's very interesting how like now we have all these like trade-off decisions that people have to make, and then each application ends up doing like picking one or the other, like you said, conscious decision to go for scale instead of going for composability. So you guys are very focused on executing the perpetual trading protocol, which I think maybe this might not be completely related to dYdX, but I just wanted to ask you personally where you see this cross-chain world evolving based on this kind of thinking. Would that be a lot of chains that are optimized for certain tasks? One could be built for gaming, one could be built for DeFi or whatever. But what's your personal take on this?
Yeah, that's kind of like the golden question, I would say, in a lot of ways for a lot of investors in the space. No one is super certain how all of this is going to unfold. But yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, it could very, very well be possible that we see application-specific layer ones where maybe DeFi happens on Ethereum, just kind of throwing that out there, and other layer twos, and gaming, maybe happens on Solana, for instance, or something like that. It's still, again, very much up in the air. And ultimately, I think different applications have different, decentralization trade-offs that they need. So maybe gaming doesn't need to be as decentralized as finance, for instance. So, if you're gaming, it might make more sense to build on a chain that is less decentralized, but has much more scalability and lower fees. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Ultimately, I think there likely will be bridges between like either all of these layer twos or all of these layer ones as well. And so hopefully, like if we really zoom out and kind of fast forward 10 years or something, it's going to be like a very seamless experience to go from one layer one to another layer one, or even from one layer one to another layer two. And, realistically, like most users probably won't even know which layer one they're kind of operating on. It'll kind of just be all abstracted away from them.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. And so I think what I would like to know more is, as a head of growth of dYdX, what do you see dYdX evolving into for the next 3 years, and what are your plans to grow? Because I think what the size of the trading that you have, the amount of trading is already like very, very large compared to other decentralized exchanges. But what else to jumpstart or to take that to the next level to compete with the centralized derivative exchanges of the world?
And I think to give perspective, that large, we're referring to over $2 billion in daily trading volume, correct?
Yeah. So most days we're actually like over $3 billion in daily trading volume. But yeah, I would say ultimately the vision here is to become the largest crypto exchange in the world. So larger than both centralized and decentralized exchanges. So we've done a good job becoming pretty large in relation to decentralized exchanges, but we have quite a bit of a ways to go in terms of becoming larger than the centralized exchanges of the world. So that's kind of the ultimate goal here. But again, ultimately, like the other parts of the vision are becoming fully decentralized, which is kind of like the number one priority. And two, offering more types of products, as we kind of covered briefly before. So right now we just have perpetuals, but over time, I think we'll add more types of derivatives. So that could be dated futures, that could be options, could be a combination, all of these types of things. And so with that, and then at the same time, doing this in conjunction with the, community and all of the dYdX token holders. So making it kind of evolving the product and the protocol in such a way where everybody's incentivized to continue to use the exchange and continue to build on top of it. So, ultimately want to get everybody involved here.
Oh, that's a great answer. So you guys are building out this and very, very ambitious goal. So I think that's a great answer. And also I think we're 9 p.m. here, so I think we're at the end of the interview. So usually at the end of each interview, Didi and I will. Didi, do you want to take some more questions from the audience before we go to the final question?
I think that I guess coming from me, like listening to the goal that is, as you mentioned now, is very ambitious, and learning that your team is quite small. Could you share with us some of the growth in terms of expansion, or how you plan to achieve the goals, maybe in short, medium, and long term? That's first question, and then I know what you're going to ask at the end, Art. So I'll let you ask that, because that's actually one of our favorite questions, talking to people in the crypto space. But yeah, I'd be keen to learn, like, on top of all the tech, on top of all of the plans, to generate all of the revenue, because with a small team, that means a lot of dedication. So, just anything that is that has to do with expansion, I think I would be keen to hear about that.
Yeah, for sure. So I think ultimately it all comes back to the product itself. And so we're definitely a very product driven team. And so one of our, I guess, core theses are that people will kind of flow to the best product. And, I think dYdX has one of the best products in all of DeFi and potentially all of crypto. So continuing to iterate on the product to make it as good as possible. But from a growth perspective in particular, kind of the playbook, I would say, has been set in a lot of ways by a lot of other larger crypto exchanges. And so the same ways in which you've seen Binance grow or FTX grow or Coinbase grow, a lot of those growth strategies are actually pretty applicable to dYdX as well. And so, right now we have an affiliate program that drives a good amount of growth. So kind of working with different types of influencers in the space to get their users interested in using dYdX. We're definitely going to focus more on that. We actually have plans to make our affiliate program self-service in the near future as well. And so with that, any user is going to be able to onboard their friends to dYdX and kind of earn fees from any people that they refer to the exchange as well. We also run a variety of different growth campaigns to get people to onboard to the exchange. So for instance, we run different types of deposit bonus programs. So, if you're a new user and you deposit X amount of money, we'll give you, perhaps $75 free, stuff like that. We actually have a program which we'll relaunch pretty soon where we'll pay all of the gas fees for a user to onboard to the exchange. And so given how high gas fees are on Ethereum, that could be, upwards of $250 of gas that you get for free for onboarding. So stuff like that, we're definitely doing as well. And then, we also are doing a variety of different types of trading competitions. So we're actually launching another trading competition. I should mention this on Thursday. And so we're giving out $250,000 in prizes to the top traders over the course of a week. And so if you have, $1,000 of portfolio value, you're automatically entered into the competition. And yeah, if you are one of the top traders of the week, off of that $1,000, you can earn, upwards of $125,000 that goes to the number one spot. So pretty big incentive structure there. So we'll definitely run more types of those campaigns as well. And again, just from a media and ad campaign perspective, we are experimenting, and we'll probably do this some more, just, doing other types of media campaigns across the space.
Actually, we have a question from one of our audiences. Wouldn't gas fees not be very low since dYdX runs on Stockware layer 2?
Yes. Yeah. So once you're onboarded to dYdX on the layer 2, there are actually 0 gas fees. So I just want to make that caveat. But for any new users, when you onboard to dYdX, you have to like send money from layer 1 to the layer 2, right? And so that still costs gas fees. And so that's kind of a little bit of a hurdle, I would say, for new users. But once you're over that hurdle, there are 0 gas costs.
I see. Yeah. So actually, there's one more question that just comes from, this is I think a question from like the more mass audience, because since the booming of now metaverse / GameFi, which is like now the talk of the town in crypto, a lot of people are making like speculations that decentralized finance is now like gone quiet, or some people may dare even say like, DeFi kind of died, and everyone's waiting for this like DeFi 2.0 like situation. What are your thoughts on that, Corey?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I'd say crypto has these very fast like boom and bust cycles where things go up and people get very excited very quickly about certain things, and then it's kind of the hype dies down, and as the hype dies down, people are still building and are still iterating on their products. And so often those are the best times to get involved with a lot of different types of things. And this is true in crypto, and this is also true in basically any other tech sectors in the world. So I guess in short, DeFi I don't think is dead. In fact, it's very much growing quite a bit, and a lot of people are just continuing to be heads down building on their product. And if you actually look at all the metrics, they are pretty much all still going up and to the right. And so things are definitely growing at quite a fast pace. But yeah, people's attention spans are always a little bit small these days. So people are quick to jump to the next thing, which is great. Brings a lot of attention to new subsectors in crypto. Yeah. But I think DeFi will continue to grow and will probably become back in the spotlight at some point.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for that. I really think that like that's kind of been this kind of speculation. So I had to ask that. So thank you for your answer. And what we may say sometimes it's like a filtering system, or kind of natural selection in a way as well. Anything to add, Art?
No, I think you brought up a good point about the boom bust cycle, being very fast in crypto. But actually dYdX actually started like in 2018, right? So that was when the big crash happened, and then people even call it the crypto winter. And so a lot of actually I personally really like projects that come out of the winter alive, because they tend to be very strong. So I just wanted to learn more about how the crypto winter went for dYdX. How did you guys come out of it alive, especially with a small team and building out this amazing product?
Yeah, it's a good point. So dYdX started in 2018. We actually started as like a margin exchange, and so the product back then is quite different than what it is now. So back then, people were lending assets. It was kind of like similar to Compound, but on top of that, we built a trading system. So we had this margin exchange that was doing quite well. Again, on some days, it was one of the largest decentralized exchange in crypto. But again, we were very product focused over the last few years, and ultimately wanted to build the best product possible, and also in the largest market possible. So we kind of came across perpetuals and realized that was actually a much larger market opportunity, in our opinion, than margin trading was. And so we pivoted a bit to that and launched perpetuals on layer 1. And so, that was somewhat popular. But again, given the gas costs to execute every trade, wasn't really feasible to scale. And so with that, then we're like, okay, we definitely need to figure out a way in which we could reduce gas costs almost entirely for our users. And we were able to do that with the layer 2 that we built out. So we launched that early this year. And then, obviously launched the token a few months after that as well. So both of those things combined, we were able to start growing exponentially, which has been exciting. But yeah, it took a long time to both, find this, subsector and kind of find product market fit. So it took some iterations there.
Right. I think the timing was just right as well, right? As you iterated, when DeFi came back alive, and especially people started trading on perpetual protocol, perpetual swaps, and then you started to notice that, and then just created a really good product out of it. I really like that answer. So thank you for that. So I guess another question that I have is that, aside from the project itself, being a founder, being like a part of the founding team, being very early on and going through all of that, what is a motivating factor for you to be able to build out and to persevere for so long in such a brutal market and come out? Like, what is it about crypto? What is it about dYdX that you really enjoy doing?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think ultimately our goal is kind of to give people all across the world the ability to trade and to kind of access financial products that otherwise would not be available to them, right? And so so many products in the world are kind of siloed from people. People don't have access, people don't have the educational tools to understand even what they are. And so I think the really cool thing with crypto and DeFi in particular is it kind of democratizes access in a lot of ways. And so, yeah, I think with that, there are so many people that have the opportunity, theoretically at least, to participate in new DeFi protocols and new crypto protocols in general, where the total addressable market could be much, much larger than we actually realize right now. And so I'm really excited to be able to get dYdX in the hands of those people over time.
Thank you. Beautiful answer. Thank you for that, and thank you for your time today, Corey. It's been a great conversation having this talk with you, especially coming from a different time zone. I know it's very early, and so thank you for your time.
Yeah. So on behalf of all of the audience here, I think that this is the first time that you're making an appearance to, I'm gonna say, Thailand, perhaps Southeast Asia as well. So I think it's always really refreshing for us, especially as a platform, talking to projects, especially from all the different places around the world, and just being reminded of how connected we are, even though we're so far apart. And we can tell that with such a small team and ambitious goals, and all of the things that you guys have achieved so far, and especially being so product oriented, it's really refreshing, and it's always kind of keeping us also on our feet. We have to really just catch on with the trends, and also act as the connector for people, especially in this part of the world where financial literacy and even inclusion in general can still always be improved. So Bitazza has been really honored to talk to thought leaders like you guys.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. As you mentioned, this was at least personally the first time to be able to talk to a Southeastern Asia audience. So really appreciate it, and really appreciate all the great things you guys are working on and building at Bitazza as well.
Cool. All right. So that wraps up our session for tonight. And so Art and I will be recapping everything and covering all of this in Thai to make sure that all of our audience gets all of the content today. And Bitazza, I believe, is the first and only platform that offers dYdX in Thailand. So we're very, very, very happy that we, got to have this pleasure. Thank you so much, Corey.
All right. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.